IVM.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
Welcome to All Things Policy, a daily podcast supported by Pragati, a flagship media initiative of the Takshashila Institution. We're a bunch of policy nerds based in Bengaluru, and we like to bring a fresh perspective to Indian affairs and an Indian perspective to global affairs. So grab a cup of coffee, sit back, and join us for today's chat.
Hello and welcome to another episode of All Things Policy. My name is Arjun, and today we're going to talk about something that happened recently in the United States, and it is causing a major movement in the United States, and it can actually have a significant impact everywhere else in the world. So this is about the abortion rights situation and the Roe v. Wade case. And to discuss this, we have today Megha and Priyal, both of whom are research analysts at the Takshashila Institution. And we're going to delve deeper into what exactly is the Roe v. Wade case, what exactly is the situation in the US right now, and how it might kind of impact abortion rights in the US itself. And we'll just end it with the implications on India, maybe, and what is the current situation on India. So, hi Priyal, hi Megha, welcome to the show.
Hi Arjun, nice to be here. Hi Arjun, nice to be here again.
Yeah, cool. So this happened 2 days back, right? So the Politico magazine, they released a draft ruling of the US Supreme Court, which actually showed that they were trying to overturn the ruling of the Roe v. Wade case. This was a 1973 case, and which kind of legalized abortion rights in the US. So this was actually met with a lot of backlash from a lot of groups, because this kind of had a very if this actually happens, it will have a very big impact on abortion rights in the US itself. So what I wanted to ask you guys, especially I think Megha has been looking into this. So Megha, what exactly is the Roe v. Wade case which happened, and what was the ruling back then? And if this kind of decision is overturned by the Supreme Court, what effect would it have on the American abortion rights itself? Does it mean that it's completely banned, or does it mean that there are more caveats to attach to it?
Yeah, so let me start with this leak currently. So actually this is not a whole judgment which is leaked. It is judgment of one of the judges. So in US Supreme Court is 9 judges, and one of the judge, Samuel Alito, he's I think this is the correct pronunciation as far as I know. So he's a conservative leaning judge. So this is his judgment which was leaked by Politico. Also, this has been a little controversial because in the Supreme Court, there's always this division, ideological division, or not ideological, I would say, but political division between judges. They're either Democrat leaning or conservative leaning. So currently, there is a conservative majority in the US Supreme Court. So that's why if this is a opinion of a conservative judge, it's more likely that other conservative judges also kind of concur on his points. And if this document shows that he is leaning towards overturning the case, which has been a long time conservative demand, then an indication that what the judgment is going to be. And the actual judgment will come, I think, later this year. So yeah, this is background. Now, regarding the case, so around, I think in 1969, a woman, actually her pseudonym was Jane Roe, after which the case is named, but her actual name was Norma McCorvey. So she filed for abortion in Texas. So she wanted to abort her child, but Texas laws didn't allow that. So she was pregnant for the third time. She didn't want that. She claimed that the child has this unwanted child and result of rape. So she didn't want that child. But for that, she needed permission. But of course, that case dragged on and it didn't happen. She ultimately did give birth to a girl child and put her for adoption. But the case went to Supreme Court in 1973. And in January of 1973, the Supreme Court decided that there's one more case. It was called Doe versus Bolton. So Supreme Court decided that under right to privacy, women should be allowed to abort child. And this was a federal decision. So what it did was it kind of, since it was a federal decision, it mandated states to give women permission to abort. So again, a little bit explanation on terminology. So Jane Roe was the one who filed for case, and it's called Roe versus Wade because Henry Wade was the district attorney of the Dallas County in Texas, against whom the case was filed. And since he was the district attorney, he was defendant of the case. Sorry, not defendant, but the one who represents state side. It was named like that. So what happened after the verdict? Supreme Court tried to balance women's right to privacy and state government's interests to protect the health and life of women. So they would try to balance that. So they created a trimester system. So if you're pregnant and you want to abort in first trimester, that is first 3 months of pregnancy, then women got absolute right to abort. Then if you're in second trimester of your pregnancy, then there will be some government regulation on who can abort, and that depended on states. And then there was the third trimester. Then individual states did have right to restrict or ban abortions, because in third trimester fetus is actually to the point where it can live outside the womb. So this was kind of, layered structure. But even in the final trimester, the ruling allowed women to, obtain an abortion if the doctor certified that this is necessary to save her life, or, there's some other complications. So this was the original verdict. But what happened was, again, this is very controversial and very landmark, because before landmark decision, because before this, women didn't have right to absolute right to abort, even if it was the first trimester of pregnancy. But over the years, many other judgments kind of watered down this verdict, effect of this verdict. So for example, in 1980, the Supreme Court in US upheld a law that banned the use of federal funds for abortion, except when it's necessary to save women's life. So it kind of, if you can't use, so this is a federal law, a federal judgment, and that's why there were federal funds available, federally funded clinics available. But after 1980, it became difficult to obtain funds for, federally sanctioned abortion clinics. Then also in 1989, there was some more restriction approved by Supreme Court, which again allowed states to, prohibit abortions and have some more laws. And then again in 1990, there was one more case. It was called, I think it's called Planned Parenthood versus Casey case, which again allowed states to restrict abortion even in the first trimester and even for non-medical reasons. So, there's this constant movement towards upturning this case.
Okay, that's interesting. So, I mean, it wasn't just like a case wherein there was just one petitioner and it was just went for them. It actually kind of set the precedent for abortion rights across the country. And especially, you mentioned how in a federal system like the US, there are different states involved, and each state has its own conservative or liberal leaning, and they have their own way of thinking about this. And they were kind of given the right to make their own laws. So, in this scenario, right, if this ruling goes through and if the final ruling comes out wherein they overturn the decision of this case, how would it impact around US itself? Like, are the states then responsible for kind of having their own laws in place, or is it just the fact that it's like no, there is still a federal law in place regarding abortion or something like that? Because I saw a report wherein the Oklahoma governor already came out with his law stating that they would ban abortions itself in the state. So how does this work then?
Yeah, so a bit background to this is that in US there's a very strong federal structure. So each states have their own laws, and they are not necessarily similar to the federal laws. So what if this case is if this Roe versus Wade case is overturned, then it will delegate the responsibility to make laws about abortion to states. So essentially, it means that mostly the conservative leaning states, or they're also called red states, they're likely to, make abortion difficult, even in extreme circumstances. Like, for example, I think there are 13 to 22 states, based on different reports, they already have what they call as a trigger laws. I mean, they already have passed laws. Everything is ready. As soon as the Roe versus Wade is overturned, those laws will come into effect immediately. And in Texas, Texas has gone a step forward. They are planning to bring a law where anyone who helps a woman to get an abortion, like for example, a doctor or I don't know, maybe practitioner or even some other person, they any other person can sue the one who is helping women to get an abortion, and they don't even have to be related. So it's literally like I got to know that my neighbor or someone in my colony has got an abortion. I can actually sue that person that they have done this thing. And this is crazy. This has a huge impact on women because it effectively states that women who are in red states or in conservative leaning states are going to lose their right to, freedom to choose what they want to do with their own body. And there are a lot of other implications for women's rights movement. One problem behind this, overturning is that this has been a major conservative movement towards this and, push to make this happen. And this will be seen as a win. And also there's other thing. This case was decided based on right to privacy, which has also become base for other rulings like right, get married, the same-sex marriage. So if this is overturned, it's likely that other cases who were ruled based on right to privacy will also be challenged. So again, yeah, huge implications for all the movements or progressive movements which have been responsible in last few decades.
Okay, that's something that will be a very interesting thing to watch out for, because as you said, right, if this sets the precedent for any other progressive movement, and again with the whole conservative getting the advantage in this abortion rights case itself, how will it affect the LGBTQ community? And all the questions remain unanswered, and we kind of have to know what to expect. Anyways, let's take a small break and we'll be right back.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On Cyrus Says Cock and Bull, Cyrus, Naveen, Antriksh, and myself talk about staff at Twitter panicking after Elon Musk's takeover and Rahul Gandhi partying at a Kathmandu nightclub. On the Filter Coffee podcast, Karthik talks to Hemant Soreng and Rajesh Nair, founders of Rustic Travel. It's an ice cream, you scream kind of day at Simplified. The hosts have a fun chat about all things ice cream. On All Things Policy, the Takshashila folk analyze 73 years of China's PLA Navy. And on the Life Manifesto, Zarina shares an important lesson about friendship with the story of Genghis Khan and his falcon. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're following this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Word of mouth is one of our biggest, most helpful things you could do for us. We'd really appreciate that. And also, don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening on. And you can also check us out on YouTube. Go check out ivmpodcast.com/YouTube. You get a list of all of our YouTube channels there. We're also doing a small listener survey to better understand how you respond to our shows and the advertising on the network. We would really appreciate it if you could spare a few minutes to fill it out. It's at ivmpodcast.com/survey. This really helps us build better shows for you. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors for this week, SBI Life Insurance, India Water Portal, and Jupiter, a digital banking app.
Welcome back to this episode of All Things Policy. We were discussing the Roe v. Wade case and how it kind of impacts the abortion rights in the US itself. So, Priyal, let me come to you now. So, what would kind of be the state of the US in a post Roe v. Wade world? Like, Megha mentioned about how this might impact, different communities and stuff. So, does this potential ruling in the US have any implications anywhere else, or would it kind of make a difference in US itself? So what do you think?
Right. So a lot of what would happen to the US after post Roe v. Wade thing is what Megha had already mentioned, right? In terms of undoing the Roe v. Wade case and like eliminating the right to abortion opens up like the door to dismantling other rights that are in place that have previously been protected under the right to privacy. And in that, including the same-sex marriage, interracial marriage, as well as the right to, decide certain aspects of your child's education. Now, in addition to that, a lot of Megha also mentioned about the triggered law. Right, more than 20 states have already have laws that could restrict or ban abortion as soon as the Supreme Court overturns law. And it is this trigger law is designed to take effect after a Supreme Court ruling. And some states also have pre-Roe abortion bans on the books that haven't been enforced. Now, other laws express the intent of states to crack down on abortion if it is permitted by the Supreme Court. Another effect that I can see happening in the post Roe v. Wade world would be an influx of, healthcare in the states which allows safe abortions, which allows legalized abortions. So the healthcare system could be overburdened in those states, in the blue states, like previously what Megha was mentioning. So, for example, after Texas enacted its 6-week ban on abortion last year, some residents began to get abortions out of state. And in the I think final 4 months, if I'm not wrong, the Planned Parenthood clinics in the states near Texas reported nearly 800% increase in abortion patients from Texas compared to the same period in the previous years. So that is another thing that is not looked at or that could potentially become a reality. Another thing is also that women of color will bear the brunt of further abortion restrictions. Now, according to the Associated Press, the Black and Hispanic women get abortions at higher rates than their peers. And women of color also experience higher poverty rates and could have harder time traveling out of state for an abortion. So this could mean that, there's a saying, right, that you are not banning abortions, but you're banning safe abortions. So potentially you're risking their health because if they cannot access safe abortion, so they're obviously going to go for unsafe ones and putting their health at risk. And like adding on to that point or extending on that point, it will and would lead to negative long term health effects. There was a study from University of California, San Francisco, that found that women are harmed by being denied abortions. The women surveyed who gave birth had economic hardships that lasted for several years and were more likely to raise children alone and were at higher risk of developing serious health problems than those who had abortions. So, all in all, I think you're basically by undoing this ruling, you're allowing people to access more unsafe ways to get abortions rather than making it more safer is what I feel. And I know there are much more implications of it, but I think we'll have to slowly wait and see.
Yeah, that's a really good answer. I mean, if we had already seen the fact that people used to go out of state to get abortions done, and
Right.
as you mentioned, right, the healthcare system would take a hit in terms of there would be most of the abortions would now happen in the blue states, and then
Yeah.
that would kind of impact their healthcare system also.
Right. Also, I think if we were to talk about it, nearly 24 states are looking forward to ban abortion. So you can see that nearly half of the half of the country is going to ban abortions. The other half is going to be overburdened by the influx of the people from those 24 states, right? So you see
Yeah,
the
yeah,
imbalance.
that would cause a major imbalance. Megha, you had something.
Yeah. So, but there's one more effect. I think from a global women's right perspective, this is a very bad trend because, after the first and second waves of feminism and after the lot of, discourse and struggle to gain or maybe, choice to make a choice about your own body, that right was very difficult to obtain. It was a,
Right.
so this case Roe versus Wade was a result of a very long struggle, and it
Right.
kind of also inspired similar struggles around the world. So to see this landmark judgment getting overturned is also bad news for women's rights all over the world.
All over the world, right? Because seeing what happened in the US, it sort of led other countries to, take a similar path. Now you see a very regressive decision being made. Now, people or countries that look up to like the US for certain laws and things like that would possibly, use this as an excuse to go back to their regressive days. So that's a
Yeah,
major blow
yeah.
to all the
Yeah, this is
women's
this will
rights.
be a major blow to women's rights because yeah,
Right,
as you
right.
guys mentioned, right? So this isn't just one case or one person. This is a whole society. regarding a whole society. And if this happens, then yeah, it can kind of trigger a chain reaction, and
Yeah,
God knows what
definitely.
might happen then. Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyways,
exactly.
so one last question, right? So what does this have to do with India? I mean, I know it doesn't have to do much with India, but what's the situation like that in India, right? So abortion rights have been, kind of contesting topic in India also. Has India ever had this kind of raw moment wherein some kind of petition reached the Supreme Court, or even there was a landmark decision made by the judiciary, or was there like a law which was codified regarding abortion rights or anything like that?
Right. So India has not necessarily had like a quote unquote raw moment. Okay. So no case at the Indian Supreme Court has left like sort of an indelible impact on the Indian abortion, or what do you say, jurisprudence, as like the Roe case left in the US. But however, like the absence of this, what do you say, landmark constitutional case on abortion does not necessarily mean Indian courts do not engage with the abortion question. And over the years, Indian women who have been seeking abortions beyond the, what you say, the conditions laid down by the law have gone to the courts, and not, I think mostly to the high courts and Supreme Courts, requesting permission for terminating the unwanted pregnancies. This is mainly because, so recently in 2021, there was an amendment made to the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. Now, prior to this 2021 amendment, abortions could be performed within 20 weeks of pregnancy. And this was possible if the continuing the pregnancy meant that it would give rise to grave injury to the mother's physical or mental health. Now, recently, though, with the 2021 amendment, they have changed it, and this limit of 20 weeks did not hold good when there was a danger to the pregnant woman's life. And the pregnancy or the termination of pregnancy was a timeline was extended to 24 weeks by the 2021 amendment. There have been fewer changes here and there that I think if we go into the details of it, we'll need an entire episode discussing it. So I'll just keep this very brief and short. So yeah, these were some of the amendments that were made.
Okay, cool. Thank you, Priyal, for that. Yeah, as you said, right, there needs to be a whole other conversation on abortion rights in India itself, and
Right.
I'm pretty sure, or with regard to the legislation which is already in place, so there's a lot to talk about there also. So
Yeah,
yeah.
but I think
Anyway,
it's sort of fair to say that compared to the US, I think India has sort of very, I don't know if using the word liberal is the right word, but like fairly good abortion laws in place compared to the US when you see the situation there. So yeah,
yeah, that's very, warming to know
interesting,
that.
right?
But
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, because considering the fact that, in a patriarchal society like India, and which has
yeah,
which suffered from a lot of female infanticide and stuff,
right.
so this is a good thing, and
Yeah,
hopefully, this kind of judgment being overturned in the US should not,
won't take.
affect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I hope it doesn't regress our laws in any sort of way. And I just hope that day never comes and that we just keep moving forward from where we currently are. That's my hope.
Yes, yeah, definitely. That's all we can hope for. Thanks, Megha and Priyal. This was a very nice conversation to have. I think everyone needed to know this, and it's something that everyone should know about. Anyways, thank you guys for being on the show. Tune into the next episode of All Things Policy.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Arjun.
If you liked our show, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can tune into them on the IVM Podcast app, ivmpodcast.com, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also follow IVM on social media. The handle is at IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And hey, if you'd like to dive into Takshashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs, check us out at our Twitter handle at TakshashilaINST or our website takshashila.org.in.
Have you ever wondered where the business world is headed? How the ways in which we create, market, and sell to consumers will evolve? or if you'll ever go back to wearing pants while working. For answers to all of this and more, tune into Advertising is Dead with me, Parenthood. Every Tuesday, as I talk to entrepreneurs, leaders, and change makers from across business, media, marketing, and beyond. You can catch all episodes of Advertising is Dead on the IVM Podcast website, app, or wherever you get your podcasts from.
We face 100 dilemmas every day while raising our children and nurturing our families. Why not let science help us make informed decisions to solve our dilemmas? Hi, I'm Devi Shobha.
And I'm Megha. We host Big Talk About Tiny Humans, where we will help you unpack challenges around parenting and your child's development.
And more importantly, we will equip you with research-backed strategies that you can readily act on.
Tune in to our podcast every Wednesday on the IBM Podcasts app, website, or your favorite podcast platforms.